Hello YouTube, this will be a long-form springans guide on how to play it. This guide will be assuming that you know what the cards do in terms of effects, so due to saving time, I will not be going over every card, but I will be explaining cards in terms of function during the combo section of the video. This is going to be a guide on pure springans specifically, as most of the other variations on the build all build on top of pure springans, and so knowing these types of combos aren't going to actually hurt your variation builds. There are a few builds that are currently not competitively viable at the moment that are very different in terms of how they combo, but seeing that they're not competitively viable and I'm wanting to make this more of a competitive video on springans, they're not really worth going over. The engine itself should not change unless we get support from the list that you're seeing on screen. Aside from maybe if you want to play a second normal summon, you got bumped kit down from 3 to 2. And that's only if you want to play a second normal summon, which this springans doesn't actually need, but it can help. The deck is 41 cards, just to show that you can play over 40. Generally, I think of a list being a good range for a springans list to be in is anywhere from 40 to 43 cards. This is currently at 40 due to the amount of one-ofs that we want to search throughout our combo. Because we can shuffle one of them back, it's okay to draw one, but drawing multiple one-ofs can make our combos really weird. So we generally play over 40 to see less of our garbage one-ofs and more of our actual good cards. So don't take this list as a super optimal list. This is more of an example list to build off of. I've taken and played this exact list. It functions, but, you know, to each their own. You should change the list depending on exactly what you want to play. So we've been talking a lot about competitive springans, and so that obviously we ask the question, why do we want to play springans over other decks? Well, the first reason is not a lot of people know what the deck does, so you can get away with murder a lot of the times. The deck is actually surprisingly resilient to the hand trap, to a single hand trap most of the time. There are obviously some hand traps that you just, if they draw GGs, but something like Imperm on Champion Sargas or even Ash on Taliho don't actually end 99% of combos. Sometimes you have to play weird cards in the extra deck to play around, specifically Imperm on Champion Sargas, but if you play those cards in the extra deck, you can just play through them. Obviously hard drawing the cards you want to search is very good, but this deck is surprisingly resilient through one hand trap, especially early hand traps, and Nibiru does nothing. The deck can play hard garnets in the deck and surprisingly still be completely fine. Stuff like your Gravediggers can be shuffled back before Summon 5, so you can immediately make your Rafflesia. It doesn't have any Xeno locks, meaning if you want to splash a package in and it has some sort of synergy, go for it. It's probably okay. This deck also isn't all in on its end board. Basically, any uninterrupted combo will end on follow-up. There are very few situations where if your opponent breaks the board, they just win from that position. Your turn 1 combos also aren't hard to learn. While post turn 1 can be hard, if they just didn't draw non-engine, your end board will just win on the spot. Springans has a single line that can play around Droll and Log. Springans also doesn't use the normal summon in the combos that you want to be doing. Springans also has a lot of flex spots, meaning the deck can make changes to match the meta that it's currently trying to go up against. It's also a fire deck that doesn't use Snake Eye, meaning it's fucking cheap as shit. So if you were looking for a budget list, this is probably the best one. And it also doesn't lose to something like Bestials, which aren't popular right now. But Bestials are more of a mild annoyance than an actual game-ending threat. It can also make an 8-mana Zeus, so you can cosplay your inner Zodiac if you really wanted to. The cons of Springans are pretty... I generally think of them as pretty self-explanatory. The draw line that I mentioned is super specific, and if you do get drawled on, you didn't do the draw line, because not every hand can do the anti-draw line, you have to do like the lowest ceiling place like you've ever seen. So you are very reliant on the hand traps that you do. It also doesn't have any one-card combos. Everything that we're going to be doing is just can't be done on one card. You need discards for your Golgolganda to work, and we unfortunately don't have like a tour guide for level 4s. It also can lose to Ghost Ogre and Dimension Shifter just really badly. Ghost Ogre on field spell is GG in like 9 out of 10 situations. And Dimension Shifter is just draw Call by the Grave, and due to not being able to play Gamma, a card that we could actually run pretty well, it just means we fold to those cards. While Shifter sees play in anti-meta strategies, Ogre is currently not ran, which can be seen as a pro that the biggest like one card, the card that you want to be seeing versus this deck is just not currently seeing play. The deck also really likes its graveyard. While a lot of your follow-up and your super optimal lines where you're just not getting hand trapped won't meet the graveyard, some of the lines do use the graveyard as their primary means of follow-up. Meaning, if your top deck is bad and they like soul release you, you just concede sometimes, and they break your board. I suppose they have to do a lot. You are occasionally just one good top deck. One bad top deck can just end the game. And while this deck can play around Super Poly, you have to read into Super Poly and make your end board slightly worse to not be Super Polyed. Meaning, going second into a set Super Poly can be game-winningly strong versus your deck. And going second, if you don't super read into Super Poly can just be game, because we'll go over it in the combo sections. This is the standard Springans combo. This is going to be Golgolganda that isn't Watch, and any Springans monster that isn't Captain Sargus. Captain Sargus theoretically could combo very differently, however you only play the one, and you also really want to special summon Captain Sargus during the end phase off of Sprint. And because it only special summons from deck, you would not have it in deck anymore. It is not worth playing the second captain in order to enable this combo. In the case of... You should note that DD Crow, in order to try to bait it out, you want to attach Rocky or Brothers, in the case of hard-drawn Brothers, to Merrymaker instead of Bringer specifically, because that might bait out a DD Crow. This line plays through Nibiru with basically 100% success rate, and Ash and Impermanence have alternative lines so long as your pitch was not exactly Brothers. Brothers, unfortunately, isn't a 100% success rate for playing through lines, where you get Impermanenced and you have Gravity Controller in your extra deck specifically. Combo 2, this is just the same circumstances as last combo, but you have watch instead of gold. I decided to show off that you could end on Dweller, however, Granite and Nibiru into your armored package is also viable if you are playing into a deck that loses to Search Nibiru plus another removal spell rather than something like an Abyss Dweller. There's not a reason to make Dweller over the Granite into Nib line. Pivots are also not available due to needing to be able to search a watch for your pivots. Technically, if you have a machine monster in your hand, you can still theoretically search kit and normal kit and do kit and do rank 4 plus Captain Sargus. Or plus Brendan Graveyard, which can convert to Captain Sargus. Combo 3 is going to be the normal summon kit line. This is going to be the most interesting because this is the newest found one, thus is not as optimized as the others. Generally, from theory perspective, you'd probably want to activate Champion before you activate Bringer effect to see if you can bait a hand trap, and then immediately Regulus before even attempting the Bringer line. However, if they help DD Crow, they can then DD Crow your Bringer, and then you're stuck on exactly one negate pass, which isn't exactly where you want to be. So you could theoretically Bringer first. However, you still, and then only lose if they DD Crow immediately afterwards. And if they DD Crow immediately afterwards, you still lose to Nibiru, but you can still full combo and end on the same end board, just without the sprint search, which is relevant, but it isn't as bad as you think it would be. Combo 4, this is the anti-draw line. It takes any version of Golgoganda plus Rocky. If you open Bringer, this combo becomes way better. With your Golgoganda plus Rocky, you can just attach to the Merrymaker before you make a champion, and you're able to do a lot more. However, this combo doesn't on its own and on any follow-up. Note about the hand-trapped combos. I'm going to be ending on Baguska. This could be, in both examples, any rank 4, including your Granite line, and then you would, instead of searching Rocky, you would just summon your Captain. Something like Imperm and then you get nibbed is actually not something that I'd be too worried about, because most players, when they have Imperm nib, they're going to hold Imperm nib and just nib when they try to negate, when you open the negate. And the Ash on Tallyho is generally incorrect, as I can champion either, as Ashing Champion is generally higher impact, because a champion is either grabbing Regulus, an Omni negate that's going to negate your Ash Blossom anyway, or it's going to grab Tallyho, and Ashing Champion, if I have to grab Tallyho, is still basically as impactful. However, it is also the highest bell, so you should still know the combo. So this is just nice and short, so I'm going to be yapping about other things about the deck that you should know, but didn't really have time to put into the combo set. About Super Poly, so you can link at the very end of your combo off your champion Sargus. You lose out on a little bit, however, you get the advantage of not being able to be super polyed for Garura on Captain and Champion Sargas. Depending on how popular Super Poly is, you should debate on doing this blind or not. If you pitch Bringer for Rocky, you should, or if you pitch Bringer for Golgoganda, not Rocky, you should always dump Rocky. And the reason is generally you're playing more Rocky than you are Brothers. And if they imperm Champion, you actually can combo through that. Like I said earlier, but just to reiterate, hard open tally-ho generally means you can search Regulus. However, generally I always recommend before you search off of Champion, always do the math in your head to see if you can still get 2 or 4 level 4s on the field after you make Rafflesia. So this combo is just a combo of a really bad hand and how you would combo through it. I figured that it'd be probably good to know, like, here's what you do with a pretty bad hand. Just so you have an idea of, like, our lower ceiling plays. Generally, you either, like, don't do a whole lot of anything at all, or you have no follow-up, and those are generally the two problems that you have with bad hands that aren't just 5 hand traps bad, where you can't play the game for the next 2 turns at least. One thing to note about this combo, if you have Kit in hand and you're just tally-hoing for a machine monster to discard, you should tally-ho for Bringer.